Hello, a new one, and it's on work and work ethic. What is work and what is work ethic? Why has work been given so much of an importance in our lives? Well, even though many of us understand that work is one of the most important things in our lives, considering we spend a huge amount of our time, maybe 8 to 12 hours, or for some even more, in doing work which is bringing us wealth, a continuance, which is a guarantee of continuance or continuity or livelihood, however you may call it. Why is it so important? Because we consider livelihood to be part of which is crucial to life, and livelihood is not possible to be earned without doing work. Now that it is determined that work is essential for a person unless they have a lot of other means of livelihood which is directly being fed to them without them having to work, you understand that work is extremely important to any individual. First connection that we saw that why work is important is because it is directly connected to one's livelihood and sustenance. Without work, you would not be able to sustain in this world. That is the first connection. But when you go deeper into it, maybe when you see that someone has become quite well to do and they can sustain without having to work on their savings, you often find that people are not able to stop or just abruptly end their work without having a plan of what to do. The existential dread creeps in into people when they think of not having anything to do. The boredom, it kills you, or if not the boredom, it is something deeper which we will talk about. Now, when I can give you an example of people who have retired, and many people face this dread of what to do now. If someone thinks that they want to do something in their life, that they want an early retirement, and that's why they'll butcher themselves or just work like machines through the years in order to get a sustenance, and then life will be extremely chill, then let me tell you that you are extremely wronged. You couldn't be more wrong. Life is not about you working for a period of time so that you cannot work anymore. It is much more deeper than that. The dynamics of it would not allow you to just stay still after having done something which you have done just for the sake of earning. Work is much more than that. They say that work is worship. And why is it said like that is what we are going to be hinting towards or going more in detail towards. So, this was the part which I was trying to get at. When you work on something, that something in turn works on you. Like, imagine a painter who is making a portrait. The act of making the portrait, it also changes the painter in a way if he is deeply involved in the work. If you do any work with deep involvement, it cannot not leave you unchanged. It takes you to a zone which is quite deep. It has been known since quite a while that even when someone is learning music, it changes your brain's neurons. When you think of music, you look at it as something extremely creative, and it has a dimension of trying to learn something new. When you are trying to learn music, you don't call it as a work anymore. A dimension of creativity has been added to it. So, this is the type of work that we are hinting towards, where whatever you do it applying yourself to an extent that you cannot sustain without putting in a great amount of creativity into it. And only that work is worth doing, where you are able to apply yourself fully. The work should not be robotic. At the same time, only then you are alive during working, because you do not want to make those 8 or 10 hours of your work as something which is like a robotic process, not a part of life. When you look at life, what are the adjectives that come in front of you? Maybe it's something uncertain, maybe it's something surprising, maybe it's something alive, maybe it is something ever changing, maybe it is something growing or depleting. So you cannot look at life through a different lens and look at work through another. Both a good life or a healthy life and a healthy work will have all those elements in varying extent. And even when we talk about things like industrialization, where many robotic or laborious tasks were taken away from humans who used to indulge in repetitive works, where the application of the mind used to be limited, or now fast forwarding to the modern day, where we see AI replacing a lot of mechanical or calculative tasks. So what we are seeing in action is man getting an opportunity to utilize more of their brain to do tasks of a higher order. And even towards the start, where we talked about the attributes of good work, if I elaborate on it further, then it having a potential for you to apply yourself fully, it also needs to be questioned in terms of the impact generated. You are doing something, what is the impact that it has? Is it just something that you are doing to fill the pockets of someone who is your senior, who is trying to do it just for the sake of making a big bank balance, or to sustain just himself? Or what is it that your work is devoted towards? Are you doing it with a cause in your mind? Are you doing it with an intent? Does it have meaning to you? Is it driven by some passion or a purpose? These are questions that could be very personal to you, yet you need to figure out the answers, because it's very important. And these are the questions or the answers of these. If they are really strong, it will help you sustain your appetite towards work, and it will really take you ahead in the long run. Do you have a love towards your work? If you do, then many of the aforementioned questions can be ignored. What is it that makes you wake up and do your work? Because the policy of having a carrot attached in front of a donkey can work only for a bit, till the donkey realizes that there is someone sitting on top of him who is holding the carrot through a wooden log or a piece. Once that realization sets in, the worker would always feel like making some or the other shortcuts. So before those shortcuts or that understanding for the exploited worker sets in, give them a purpose or give them something that is beyond just jumping towards goals that have been determined out of greed. What are the values? What is the character? What is the intent that you are driving towards is extremely important. For workers or people who have started working, well, maybe we started on a very deep note without having thought of you. For you, if you think the work is decent and you are not at a stage of questioning it to that much of a tenacity or that much of a depth, then what you can do is for a while try to be a good student, because only a good student can be a good leader. If you know the trade, if you know the tricks, if you know and are proficient and have a hunger for excellence, it is enough for you to take a grip over yourself in a way that you are not extremely dependent on the organization, so that you always have a choice to explore, to bring in new things. So it is said that even in wisdom, it is said that bhukhe pet bhajan na hoye gopala. So if you are a starter, you need to be taking care of your day to day or your essentials. Only then one can go towards growth. I think this should have come towards the start of the video, but nonetheless, it is something which is quite important for people who are in an organization out of compulsion. You are frustrated at a certain thing, yet you have to be a part of it because you don't have an option. In such cases, excellence is what drives you. Excellence is the solution which will take you towards freedom. And there is, after you achieve that excellence, there are people who still are not intended towards growth or improvement. For them, what has happened is surety or a certain sense of fixed results, irrespective of whether they put in the work or not, has become a way of life and is driving their entire engine towards actions which are not thoughtful, which are just coming out from a center of blind following rather than a core which emanates from maybe understanding or a center which is pure. So you need to ask how much surety is too much surety. On our search for surety, we lose our essence, we lose our talents, we lose everything that is dear to us. Surety surely kills, because when we started the video, we sort of took work as a metaphor of life. Work is not independent of life. Work is as much life as life is life, because it's a part of it. So, as in life, we don't have a great deal of surety. In work, also, you won't have that surety. And it is often said for a seeker that the path might be arabs of kilometers, maybe trillions of kilometers ahead might be your destination. Yet, a seeker with a lantern in his hands will be able to see just the one step ahead of him or her. That's the only surety with you. You might be able to see just the one path, just the one step ahead of you. Yet you have to take that step. And if you are on a path which is too good to be true, consider it to be too good to be true. Because it is inherent nature of life to be in flux. So is work. If you are not going even a bit back and forth, you are not understanding, you are not questioning, then you are dead. Like, even youngsters nowadays, they are often encouraged towards jobs which have a lot of surety, government jobs or companies where you get in, and then even if you don't work, you don't have a fear of being removed. What this leads to is a very drab, a dead existence, which will certainly numb you to the ups and downs of life, to the problems that arise in life, because life is a problem statement. You don't know if there is a solution, but there are certainly problems that will come your way. And if you let go of your mechanisms, which are always primed towards improving, towards going towards excellence, then you are dumbing yourself down, you are numbing yourself down, which is essentially anti life. So you might ask that what if my workplace or my organization is not doing good work? They are keeping themselves in a dead space or a drab space, and they are keeping you by extension in a sort of a coma where you don't learn, where you are not able to explore. Well, the option for you is, it could be anything, but in general, when I talk about it, it could be towards maybe exposure, maybe exploring, maybe knowing about people who are doing independent work, who are trying to find their own way, maybe they are trying to create their own niche, going towards excellence, maybe doing freelance. And when you try to learn from them, when you maybe explore in that way, you make your own path in that way. So, even in spirituality, it is said that the path is like walking on the knife's edge. It is not easy. It's like walking on a tight rope between two mountains, yet you are not able to see the end or the start. That's the nature of the path. So, if you find yourself in such a situation, then rest assured that you are growing. And do not confuse this with a way of living where you are just crying about you having to firefight every other day. And that could also be a result of a way of living that is extremely lethargic, and in spite of problems, not trying to overcome them, rather just making peace with your problems. And even though you face your problems every other day, you say that life is such and such, and your lack of growing reflects on the problems just compounding over and over again to an extent that it becomes so heavy that it becomes debilitating on you. Maybe it brings up some big problems. It could be in terms of anything where your essentials are also at a risk of being lost. Essentials, I mean your health, your ability to do basic things. So before such a thing happens, try to get on the right way.